All right, guys. So, quick question for you here that I just want you to think about a little bit with what we've been working with. This says 27% of the 300 kids in sixth grade attended the farm show last week. How many kids from sixth grade went to the farm show, right? So, some stuff I'm noticing here. I'm noticing a 27%. I'm noticing that there's a total of 300 kids. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, how do I figure this out? 27%. How many is that out of 300, right? So, if I had had, if this had said, hey, let me go down here. If this had said, hey, there's 25% of 4 kids, right? There's 4 kids, and 25% of them went. I bet a lot of you would come up with this and say, oh, well, if I broke 4 into 4 pieces, that would be 1 student, right? But it's a little bit different when we end up with something like we have now when it's 27% of 300, okay? So I want you to think about how you might solve this. And to set this up, what I want you to do is open your notebook up to today's date, put today's date in your notebook, and I want you to take and put a heading of Lesson 8.3, Solving Percent Problems. And we're going to take the following notes in our notebook. So I'm going to put these up here. And again, you can pause the video, make sure you get these really well written. So starting right here, right? What we're going to be talking about today, percent problems can all be solved using a proportion. And that's good because we know how to use proportions. With 2 part-to-whole ratios, right? And if you think about what a part-to-whole ratio is, we'll just think of a fraction. The top is always your part, the bottom is always your whole, like 1/2, right? 1 out of every 2, 1 out of 2. So 2 would be your whole, and 1 would be your part, okay? But we can solve any percent problem with a proportion. Part-to-whole ratios called is over of proportions. And this is how we're going to set them up. Is over of, or part over whole, is equal to percent over the whole, right? Which is always 100. So this is going to be a little confusing. I want you to stop and pause this, and then when we go back, as we move forward here in the video, I think this will make more sense to you. All right? So go ahead and write this down. Pause the video if you need to. Make sure you get everything on this page. All right, so let's take a look at an example here. So find the percent of each number. 27% of 300. Look. 27%, here's the one we just looked at. 27% of the 300 kids in 6th grade attended the farm show. How many kids from 6th grade went to the farm show? Now, we can't say 27, right? We can't say 27 kids because it's not 27 out of 100. If this said 100, yeah, 27% of the 100 kids, that'd be 27 over 100 or 27, but it's not. It's out of 300. Okay, so there's different ways to solve this, but I want to think about this part-to-whole ratio. So above this problem, somewhere in your notebook, I want you to recopy this. All right, this is number 1 example. And I'm going to set up a proportion to do this. Is over of percent over, and this is always going to be 100. Okay, so I'm looking for keywords. 27%, of the 300 kids. Of 300 kids. Of 300. That's my total. Now, right here it says 27%. What's 27% mean? What's my percent over 100? 27 means 27 over 100. So I put my percent on the top. My bottom's always 100 because we're dealing with percents. Is of, and we want to know how many is 27% of 300. Here's what we don't know. Right? So what do? Well, now we can, a couple different things we can do. We can cross multiply, right? Whatever we need to do now to solve this piece, that is the part out of 100 that would tell us the 27%, right? What's the 27%? So if I were doing this, I would say, yeah, I'll cross multiply, okay? So I'm going to get my calculator out here, and I'm going to do 300 times 27, and that's going to equal 8,100. Over here, I'm going to do 100 times n. That's going to be 100n. And then we're going to divide both sides by 100. And I'm going to get 81. So 27% of 300 would be 81. Down here, how many kids? It'd end up being 81 students. All right? Let's take a look at another one. So write this down, example number 2, and recopy this. 38% of 50 students. Now, there's a couple different ways to do this, right? Some people would say, well, man, I wish this was 100. Because if this was 100, 38% of 100 would be 38, because percent means out of 100. So some people, one way you could do this is to say, oh, well, 50 times 2 is 100. So I'll just take 38 times 2, right? And figure out that that would be 38 times 2 would be 76. Okay, that'd be one way to do it. But because we're practicing using these new proportions, let's set this up. So we're going to do, remember, is over of, and we put our percent over and on the 100, right? Because we're dealing with percent. So we're finding percent of a number, percent of 50. So let's see, 38%, oh, 38% means 38 over 100 of 50. 50 of 50. Here's what I don't know. Okay? If I was doing this, I might say, ooh, well, I see 100 divided by 2 would give me 50. So I'm going to do 38 divided by 2, and that would give me 19, right? So I know the answer was 19. Or I could cross multiply. Well, 100 times n, that would be 100n. 50 times 38 on my calculator, 1,900, right? Divide both sides by 100, and I get n equals 19. So a couple different ways I could do that. Okay? But again, here's the key. This is over of the percent, whatever my percent is, over 100. Okay? Let's try one more. Go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to try this yourself. And I just want you to set it up in is over of proportion. Okay? And when you're ready, unpause it, and we'll see it together. All right, so you've tried this yourself. I'm looking at saying, oh, I'm finding percent of a number, 60% of 75. Okay, I'm going to do an is over of proportion. Is over of, right? So is over of, I'm going to set it equal to, whoops. My bad here. Is over of, I set it equal to, I know it's dealing with a percent, and that's always out of 100, so my percent out of 100. Now, they give us, they say, hey, 60%. Bingo. There it goes, 60 over the 100. Of 75. Of 75. What I don't know is the n. So however you want to do it. If I was doing this, I would cross multiply because I don't see that these work together real nice. So 100 times n is 100n. Let's try 75 times 60 equals 4,500. Yep. And then divide both sides by 100, and 4,500 divided by 100 would be 45. Okay? Now, just because I want to show you some other ways, I really want us to get the idea of this. Well, I'm going to save that, actually. I'll save that. So let's go on to another example. All right? So here it says, out of 25 students in Mrs. Green's class, 19 have a pet. What percent of the students have a pet? So out of 25 students, 19 have a pet. What percent? So here I'm trying to figure out what percent of the 25 students have a pet. So what do I know? Well, first of all, I see it's a percent problem. So I'm going to right away set up my is over of. Whoops. Okay, my is over of. Set it equal to. I'm trying to find a percent, right? So it's going to be a percent. It's going to be something out of 100. Now this one's a little bit different. So we've got to figure out, well, what do we know, right? I know that this is my whole down here, parts on top. So what do I know? Well, out of 25, of what? Of 25 students. So my of's going on the bottom. Now, what do I know about of 25? Of 25. Where's the 19 going to go? Well, the 19's the part of the 25. 19 of them have a pet. What I don't know is the percent. I know it's something out of 100, but I don't know what that is. There's my variable in this case. So my variable moved, but the is over of proportion idea stayed the same. So remember, here's my part. This is my whole group. 19 out of the 25. Over here's my whole, would be at 100, because I'm dealing with the part, which is the percent. Okay, so again, you're getting this example number 4 in your notebook. And then, thankfully, we know a lot about solving proportions. We're just going to cross multiply, or however you want to do this. I personally, you might say, hey, 25 times 4 is 100, and do 19 times 4. You might cross multiply, get 1900 equals 25n, and find it that way. In this case, I'm going to do 19 times 4. And I get n equals 76. So what percent of students? Well, this is the n is going to be 76 over 100. That means it's 76%. 76%. All right, let's try one more. Let's go back here once. Let's try number 5. 6 is 30% of blank. Oh, here I got 30%. I see the word of, is. All right, I'm setting up an is over of. Is over of equal to my percent over 100. So what do they give me? 6 is, wait, is, what is 6? 6 is 30%, 30%, oh, percent means out of 100, 30 over 100, of blank, we don't know that. So the of, we don't know. So here's what I got. Again, I would recopy this into your notebook, and then we're getting this example. Okay, 6 is, so there's our is, 30% of what? All right, 6 is only 30%. What we're trying to figure out is of what? What's the whole? Okay, 6 is 30%. That's just a part. I would probably cross, no, I wouldn't actually. I might do 6 times 5 is 30, and what times 5 is 100. I could do it that way. Or I could cross multiply. Either way, I'm going to get 20. Whoops. And just for fun, let's do the last one. 15% of blank is 75. 15% of blank is 75. 15% of blank is 75. Okay, so I have is over of. Got some keywords that I see. I'm dealing with percents, so I know it's going to be out of 100. And what do they give me? 15%. Oh, 15%. That means 15 out of 100 of bloop is bloop. Oh, is 75. Is, they're telling me it is 75 of blank. Of blank. I don't know that. All right. So 75 times 100 is 7,500. 15 times n is 15n, so I'm just cross multiplying here, right? And I'm going to divide both sides by 15. And n equals, let's see, what's 75 divided by 15? Let's see, let's do it on our calculator. 75 divided by 15 equals 500, because I'm doing 7,500. So again, 7,500 divided by 15 equals 500. So 15% of 500, of the total, of this total, is 75. So 75 is 15% of 500. Okay? All right. So hopefully you got a lot of those examples down. What I'm going to have you do for the rest of the period and tonight is I want you to work on worksheet 158, the odds only. Again, make sure you're only doing the odds. And notice right here, I want you to do these in your notebook under a proper heading, numbering the problem, showing quality work, and I want you to show your is over of proportions. So you should have good notes, good examples. Go back and watch the video if you need to. Worksheet 158, odds only, and make sure you show your is over of proportions. Okay? We'll go over those tomorrow. We'll do some more practice. We'll get you feeling really good. All right? Great.